Dear students, in today's class we are going to see a theoretical question relating to diagonalization. In the last class we have already seen what diagonalizable matrix is. Chalo, we will recall the definition of diagonalizable matrix. A square matrix A is said to be diagonalizable if there exists means what? We should be able to find a non-singular matrix P such that P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix, and if this happens then we say that the matrix is diagonalizable. But the question is there some other way to decide whether the matrix is diagonalizable or not? Actually, finding that non-singular matrix P is really a lengthy job, really a tricky job. So is there any other way, other easy way rather, I will say, from that we can decide whether that matrix is diagonalizable or not? And the answer is yes. There are many ways, but one of the ways we are going to discuss today. So by finding the eigenvalues of the matrix A, we can decide whether the matrix is diagonalizable or not. Now, what is that theorem? Let us discuss it out. So the statement of the theorem is, if we are having a matrix of order n, then it is said to be diagonalizable if this condition is satisfying. And what is this condition saying? If all the eigenvalues, I mean lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n are distinct, then we can conclude that our matrix is diagonalizable. Let me explain you by giving a simple example. Suppose you are having certain matrix A whose order is 3, and suppose you find the eigenvalues of A, and if the eigenvalues comes out to be 1, 10 and minus 20, one can easily see that all these eigenvalues are distinct, and therefore this matrix will be diagonalizable. Now just keep in mind that how many eigenvalues does a matrix have? It depends on the order of the matrix, because order of the matrix tells us the degree of the characteristic polynomial, and the degree of the characteristic polynomial gives us the idea regarding the eigenvalues. Because according to fundamental theorem of algebra, a polynomial of degree n can have at most n roots, right? So therefore whenever we are having certain matrix of order 3, then we can think of 3 eigenvalues. Whenever we have certain matrix of order 4, let us call it as A4, and if we find the eigenvalues of that, and if the eigenvalues comes out to be somewhat like this, you can see that all the eigenvalues are distinct, then by using this theorem we can directly conclude that this matrix will be diagonalizable. Now the question is how to prove it. So we are going to use the basic definition in order to prove it. So I will start with a matrix A of order n, obviously a real matrix, and I will say that lambda 1, lambda 2 up to lambda n are a distinct eigenvalues of A, and we will try to show that A is diagonalizable. But how to show it? So idea is to find a non-singular matrix P such that P inverse AP should be a diagonal matrix. So chalo then, let us proceed ahead. But before going ahead, we need a few remarks or notes that we have already discussed before and which will be useful in proving this theorem. So let us discuss that out first, and then we will go for the proof. So the first important note that will be needed is obviously the definition of eigenvalue and eigenvector. So lambda belonging to R is said to be an eigenvalue of a matrix A of order n if we are able to find, or if there exists, a non-zero vector belonging to R raised to n such that Ax is equal to lambda x. Remember, lambda is eigenvalue if there exists some column vector belonging to R raised to n such that this condition is satisfied. Next, the second note says that determinant of some matrix is non-zero if and only if the columns of that matrix are linearly independent, and in fact the contrapositive of this result is also true. I think we have seen this result last year. In fact, we have proved it. This result can be stated other way round. A matrix is non-singular if and only if columns of A are linearly independent. Not only columns, this result is also true for rows. I mean, if you are having certain matrix which is a non-singular, what do you mean by non-singular matrix? Determinant is non-zero. So if you are having certain matrix whose determinant is non-zero, I mean, if you are having some matrix which is non-singular, then we can conclude that the columns of that matrix are linearly independent. And the converse is also true. If we are having certain columns which are linearly independent, and if you form a matrix using that columns, then we can say that that matrix is a non-singular one. Remember that all these are vectors, column vectors of what? R raised to n. Next, the third one is eigenvectors corresponding to distinct eigenvalues are always linearly independent. I mean, whenever you are having distinct eigenvalues, and remember, corresponding to each eigenvalue we can find eigenvector, and if all the eigenvalues are distinct, then whatever set of eigenvectors is there, that is going to be linearly independent. So let us prove it now. So first of all, I have started with, I said let A be a real matrix of order n, and let this lambda 1, lambda 2 up to lambda n be distinct eigenvalues of A. And our claim is to show A is diagonalizable. Means what? To find a non-singular matrix P such that P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix. Now since these are some eigenvalues of a matrix A, definitely there will be some eigenvectors corresponding to that eigenvalues. So what I am saying is, corresponding to lambda 1 there will be some eigenvector, let us call it as x1, corresponding to lambda 2 again some eigenvector, and so on. Similarly, corresponding to lambda n there will be an eigenvector, we are calling it as xn, and this is the notation used. Thus I said that let x1, x2 up to xn be eigenvectors corresponding to the eigenvalues lambda 1, lambda 2 up to lambda n. Now since these are the eigenvectors corresponding to these eigenvalues, now we can use our definition of eigenvalue and eigenvector. Just see here, lambda is said to be an eigenvalue if there exists some vector. This vector is called as eigenvector. So if there exists a non-zero eigenvector such that Ax is equal to lambda x. Now over here such condition will be satisfied, right? But there will be plenty of such equations, because this definition is only for one eigenvalue over here. Now in picture we are having n eigenvalues and n eigenvectors. So corresponding to each eigenvalue and eigenvector, such type of the equation will be satisfied. But you should be careful. Why you should be careful? Because you should see eigenvalue and the corresponding eigenvector. So over here, which condition will be satisfied? Ax1 will be equal to lambda 1 x1, since lambda 1 is the eigenvalue and the corresponding eigenvector is x2. Similarly, for this eigenvalue and eigenvector, we will have Ax2 is equal to lambda 2 x2, and in a similar way for last eigenvalue we will have Axn is equal to lambda n x1, lambda n xn, and I am calling it as equation 1. Now the result that we have recalled, eigenvectors corresponding to distinct eigenvalues are linearly independent. So that is what I have written here. We know eigenvectors corresponding to distinct eigenvalues are linearly independent. Therefore what will happen? All these eigenvectors, that is x1, x2 and xn, will be linearly independent. And you know, whenever we have some linearly independent vectors of r raised to n, and if they are n, then it is a good thing, right? Because what is the result saying? See carefully, huh? All these vectors are from where? R raised to n, okay? And these are how many vectors? That is important, n vectors. So I mean, if we are having 3 vectors from R3, then this result can be used. If we are having 4 vectors from R4, Are you getting it? So now in our theorem we are having n vectors, that is x1, x2 up to xn, that are from r raised to n, and all of them are linearly independent. Thus this result can be used. So according to this result, the matrix formed by x1, x2 up to xn will be a non-singular matrix, right? And that will be my choice of P. Remember, what was our ultimate aim? Our ultimate aim was to find a non-singular matrix P, isn't it? Such that P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix. Yeah. So therefore, this x1, x2 up to xn will be linearly independent, and therefore this matrix will be a non-singular matrix, and we are calling it as P. See how this matrix is formed. This is simply the notation part, no need of worrying. This notation is simply used to represent what? A matrix. So this is a matrix, and these are the columns of the matrix, and they are formed by what? These eigenvectors that we have started with. And remember, they are linearly independent, and thus this matrix will be a non-singular matrix. Now what is left out? Our last job is to verify that P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix. Thus it remains to show that this P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix. Therefore now what I will do is I will consider P inverse AP, which is further equal to, now what is the value of P? Over here you can see, so I will simply put the value of P. So this will be P inverse A, and what is my P? X1, x2 and so on up to xn, which is equal to, now let us put this matrix A inside. So this will be P inverse AX1, AX2 and so on AXN. But do you have something over here? Do we have the value of AX1? Yeah, from the equation 1. What is AX1? It is lambda 1 x1, AX2 lambda 2 x2. So after putting that value, this will be P inverse lambda 1 x1, lambda 2 x2 and so on lambda n xn. Now after putting that P inverse inside, what we will get? It will be P inverse lambda 1 x1. But remember that this lambda 1 is simply a real number, so position of that real number can be changed anywhere. Remember that the matrix multiplication is non-commutative. Okay, AB is not equal to BA in general. So I am not changing the order of P inverse and x1. Okay, so I will write it as lambda 1 P inverse x1. But since it is a scalar, its position can be changed. We can write it anywhere as per our need. So lambda 2 P inverse x2 and lambda n P inverse xn. Yeah, this is where we reach. Now note one thing. Since this P is a non-singular matrix, non-singular matrix means what? Its determinant is non-zero, therefore its inverse will exist, right? And we are calling the inverse of P as P inverse. And you know what is a property satisfied by inverse of a matrix? We are having P into P inverse is equal to I. Now let me put the value of, no, just let me think whether I will need P inverse of P inverse P is equal to I. Two things will happen, right? Since inverse of P exists, P inverse will be I and also P inverse P will be I, but I need this. Okay, because over here you can see that this P inverse is on the left hand side, same thing is happening here, so I don't want this. Yeah, now what I will do is I will put my value of P. What is my P? X1, X2 and so on up to Xn. Now I is identity matrix. Now I will write it as E1, E2 and so on. Now you will wonder what this E1, E2 and En are exactly. Don't worry, they are just the standard basis of R raised to n. You know how does identity matrix of order 2 look like? Yeah, 1 0 0 1, and this first column is nothing but 1 0, second column is nothing but 0 1. So I can write this matrix as E1 E2 in this way, where this E1 is nothing but the column vector 1 0 and E2 is nothing but the column vector 0 1. So actually E1, E2 up to E1 are just the standard basis of Rs to n, but they are the column vectors, right? They are not the coordinates. That thing should be kept in mind. Now if we simplify it further, what we will get? Therefore P inverse x1, yeah, I am putting P inverse inside, so P inverse x1, P inverse x2 and so on, P inverse xn will be equal to what? E1, E2 and so on up to what? En. And after comparison, what we will get? We will get the value of P inverse x1, which will be E1, P inverse x2, which will be E2 and so on. P inverse xn will be En. Now these values of P inverse x1, P inverse x2 and P inverse xn can be used in this equation, right? Let me get little bit down. Yeah, so that is what we have started with. P inverse AP, substituted the value of P, then we have taken this A inside, as you can see, then we have used this 1, thus we got lambda 1 x1, all these things which is over here, yeah, as you can see. Then we got this equation and we are calling it as 2, as you can see here. Now as P is non-singular, so P inverse P is the identity matrix, as I explained. Then after doing certain calculations, you will get this. Then I am using this 3 in 2 now. I mean our P inverse x1 is E1, so simply put the value of P inverse x1 as E1, P inverse x2 as E2 and P inverse xn as En. So what I am left with? I will have this. So what we have proved is P inverse AP is lambda 1 E1, lambda 2 E2 and lambda n En. Remember that this is one matrix, okay? And what are the columns of the matrix? First column is lambda 1 E1, second column is lambda 2 E2 and the nth column is lambda n En. Now let us try to understand it by taking a particular example, okay? I mean example of order 3. So if I am having an identity matrix of order 3, okay, how it will look like? E1, E2, E3 and where my E1 will be 1 0 0, my E2 will be, right? Now what we are having over here on this side, we are having lambda 1 E1, so this matrix will be equal to what? Now since value of E1 is this, what will be lambda 1 E1? It will be lambda 1 0 0, am I right? What will be lambda 2 E2? 0, lambda 2 0 and lambda 3, oh I am sorry, it should be lambda 3 here, right? Since we are discussing an example of order 3, and thus my third column will be 0 0 lambda 3. Now this is the case for a matrix of order 3. So in general, for a matrix of order n, this is what exactly we are going to have. And remember, are we familiar with lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda n? What are they? They are nothing but the eigenvalues, right? So now just try to understand how we have constructed this matrix P. Whatever matrix P has been constructed, that has been constructed by using simply the eigenvectors corresponding to the eigenvalues. So corresponding to lambda 1, our eigenvector is x1. Therefore, first of all, we are getting lambda 1 here. Order is important. This x2 is corresponding to lambda 2. Thus, second column is 0, lambda 2 and so on. We are having lambda 2 there. And in nth column, we are having eigenvector corresponding to eigenvalue lambda n, and thus the last column is this, okay? So if we change the orders of the eigenvectors here, similarly whatever matrix we get here, yeah, that is also going to change a bit in the sense, if I write x2 first and then if I write x1, then over here I will get lambda 2 0 0 and so on, and over here I will get 0 lambda 1 and so on, okay? So you should be careful, right, while solving the examples on the diagonalizable matrices. And as I told, which is a diagonal matrix, and that is what we wanted to prove, and thus we have found out a non-singular matrix P such that P inverse AP is a diagonal matrix, and thus A is similar to a diagonal matrix and therefore A is diagonalizable.